Move to KwaZulu-Natal because former President Jacob Zuma's daughter, that's Duduzile Zuma-Sambudla, is set to begin her 2-week trial at the Durban High Court today. The Umkhonto Wesizwe Member of Parliament is accused of incitement to commit public violence as well as terrorism relating to her tweets during the July 2021 unrest. She posted several images and videos on X, at the time it was Twitter, with the caption, "We see you," which the state argues would have further influenced the ongoing public violence. For more on this, let's head to Karinda Jagmohan, who's just outside that Durban High Court. How unique is this case for the national prosecuting, though, Karinda?
With regards to a social media post and the Paktatara Act, that's a terrorism-related charge. But we've got a legal analyst just to touch more on this, Mr. Mpumelelo Zikalala. So thanks for giving us your time today. A unique case for the NPA. What does this actually mean in terms of taking to social media and terrorism-related charges?
It's very unique in a sense that I think it's going to be the first time in which social media is used as a means of communication. Remember, in those charges that are here, we need active participation of one, which is meant to incite, but for that incitement will then cause people on the ground to move. That's going to be the nub in which the NPA would need to prove. Now, the defense will be, I post on a daily basis, I didn't instruct someone, they simply went on their own violation. I did not identify a certain space or a specific building in which they need to go to. It was simply a post and it ends there. So it's going to be a very difficult task for the NPA to then say, but for what was tweeted and what was written, the people acted on it. And on that basis, someone should be charged for that. Remember, again, when you go to a criminal matter, you have to prove beyond reasonable doubt that the person is guilty. In this case, on the element of causation, I think the state's case is a bit weak, but we have to wait up until we hear the evidence, and then maybe we'll take it from there.
Now, we're also going to look at the issue of freedom of expression, the limitations thereof. Tell us about the precedent that this might set for the country.
Our courts have had a very high standard when it comes to freedom of expression, to say that we are free to write whatever that we like, just as long as it does not infringe another person's right. So in this case, again, the problem is, tell me, how did my tweet cause people on the ground to move and cause the damage that they caused? That is what the NPA would need to prove as we are moving along. Also in that background, taking into account that we are free to write whatever that we like, and it cannot be taken, or in certain instances it cannot be taken as incitement.
Now, Zuma-Sambudla, of course, she might be influential in her own regard, but what would this mean for the regular man on the street when it comes to expressing themselves online? When we look at this case, the posts that were made, a differentiation between the two?
It then means also you have to take into account the person as they come. There are some people that are very influential. One tweet from them would gather a mass movement in terms of a following or just a reaction on its own. So that will need to be taken into account in terms of how do we deal with this matter. But the courts, when they are looking at a person, they say, we're looking at a human being, their rights still apply, the Constitution still applies to them. So in terms of the protection, that protection must be there regardless who that person is, whether they're related to a former president or not. At the end of the day, they need to be protected by the same law. In doing so, you do it with a balancing act of saying, when do we cross the line from that process of saying we're protecting your rights to an instance where you're providing incitement? But because it's a criminal matter, it's going to be a difficult task for the NPA.
Definitely so. Thank you so much for your time, Mr. Mpumelelo Zikalala. He's a legal analyst that's just providing some insight because, like he mentioned, this is a unique case whereby the NPA is using social media posts, like you said, those former Twitter posts, and linking that to the allegedly incitement to commit public violence and terrorism, those allegations essentially. Also, what's unique here is that the same state prosecutor, Advocate Yuri Gangai, has actually been prosecuting in other cases relating to the unrest. You might remember one, Mdumiseni Keta Zuma. He was convicted as one of the first so-called instigators when it came to the unrest charges back in Pietermaritzburg back in 2023. He was convicted there for incitement to commit public violence, sentenced to 12 years in prison for those charges relating to a WhatsApp video he posted whereby he alluded to public violence around a mall in Pietermaritzburg. And then the same state prosecutor is also prosecuting in the case involving another MKP member, that's Bongenkosi Kanile, and that case is also unfolding. So the same prosecutor is going to be in court today. We understand there's going to be social media witnesses coming to the fore, witnesses to speak to emojis that were used, and witnesses to speak to the language that was used as well. In this case, the context of the fact that this was the unrest, this was essentially revolving around the former president's incarceration, and the person at the center of this, the former president's daughter, and the context in which she was actually relaying those messages. She says it was out of anger, frustration. Her father was jailed, but the state says, well, there's a limit to the freedom of expression that one can enjoy. All of this will start at about 10 o'clock, but we'll give you another update in the next hour. Still, it's a little bit quiet. We've just seen one MKP member so far, but we do expect more supporters to arrive.
Karinda,